Welcome back to the RF Fitness Podcast, brought to you by by the rffitness.net. Sure, why not? Maybe I should just change the name of the freaking website. Brought to you by rffitness.net, your source for online coaching built for and by busy grown-ups just like you who are on the quest for health and strength in everyday life. I'm your host, Rob Finlayson, certified older brother, fitness coach, and real-life dungeon master. And I'm not here with my co-host, Robiso Ranter No Banter here. I want to talk a little bit today about keep questing, what that actually means. I say it at the end of every post. I say it at the end of every episode. I've been saying it for years, since the way back when days when I was D20 Athletics, up until now and long into the future. So you guys hear me say it all the time. What's it actually mean? Well, I first used the phrase keep questing probably 4-ish years ago at the end of, I think, some Instagram video, maybe like a YouTube video I was making, like demonstrating an exercise with a kettlebell. I forget exactly what. It wasn't a swing though, unfortunately. And I just said like, sign off like, hey, I'm Coach Rob, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Have fun and keep questing. And it just kind of like fell out of my mouth. And it's like, oh, that's a cool thing to say. That sounds good. I like the way that sounds and feels. And boy, howdy, the branding. So I kept saying it. And it's been long enough now where I don't want it to be just some like rote sign off thing that you say just to have a thing to say. Like I want it to have actual meaning, because you know how I love to define a term, and you know how I love to mine for meaning and things and everything. So keep questing. I got my little journal here. What does it mean? What do I mean when I say keep questing? I really mean to persevere and to enjoy the journey. You know, I think about what a quest is, what it means to be on an adventure, right? To take this journey, to take a journey with an objective, right? Is that basically what a quest or an adventure is, I suppose? And there's two examples here that I really want to dive into a little bit today, and that is the great adventure story that I've talked with at great length about, probably with you guys in person, which is Lord of the Rings, and the grand adventure that is my real life, which has been being a dad. And that's the big adventure that I'm on lately. So let's draw a few conclusions or draw a few threads in between them. Something every adventure has in common is that it is by definition, by its very nature, it has to be hard. It must be challenging. And it also has to get easier as you get better at it. So I guess it doesn't get easier, you just get more proficient. And that's true in both stories, right? In Lord of the Rings, it feels like the Fellowship finds themselves, at least in the first book when they're all together for the, like, is it like maybe 100 pages or something where they're actually all together, you know? And they keep finding these new things. It's the mines of Moria. It's the hills. It's goblins. It's meeting the elves and getting split up by wandering orcs at Amon-Her. And every time they surmount some challenge, a brand new one is right over the horizon for them, right? Like the team, Aragorn brings the hobbits to Weathertop, and they say, we've finally gotten out of the wilderness. Now we can take a rest here. And then over the horizon is the ring wraiths, and then Aragorn fights them off. And then the problem there is, oh, Frodo has ghost poison in his body. We have to take him to the elves. God, what an awesome fucking sentence that gets to be. With being a parent, it's really the same thing. It's, at least so far, Olivia is 6, and you spend the first couple of years with a kid thinking how goddamn challenging this is every day and in new, novel, terrible ways all the time. And people will always tell you it gets easier, to the point where you get really sick of hearing that, because it doesn't seem to be getting easier. It just seems to be getting different. I'm here to tell you, as someone with a 6-year-old, that it does in fact get easier, but it doesn't get easier until that kid is in school, and then they're not your problem for like at least 8 hours of the day. But again, it does get different. With Olivia, we've talked about I've probably talked about being a dad on this podcast more than I've talked about fitness. But every time it feels like we've got a handle on something with her, something else pops up. And it's not like something else goes, it's not like she's doing things wrong or whatever, like she's intentionally making my life difficult. It's just part of growing up. She's never been alive before, just like I've never been a parent before. So we're both kind of navigating this in real time. And the problem is, she doesn't really know that. She just knows that I'm the guy in the house all the time. She just knows that I'm dad. And you know what? Let's talk about fitness as well, because this is the easy one. Maybe that's the reason I don't talk about fitness. I feel like it's so over talked about. Fitness is the same thing. You start out with one thing and you progress weight or reps, whatever. Let's say you've got your squat, right? Oh, so we'll say we're doing a barbell clean. That's something I've been working on lately. You start with the barbell clean. You have to do the very basic movements first. You have to make sure that your body knows how to move. You've mastered that. Now we progress. Now there's a new challenge. We have to do it with load. And now there's a new challenge. We have to do it with speed. Now there's a new challenge. We have to do it with greater load. You have to progress your reps or your volume or your total intensity, whatever. The journey necessitates constant challenge, because if they didn't, you'd just be driving to work, right? It's just at that point, if it doesn't consistently challenge you, you're not on an adventure, you're on a commute. And something else that they have in common, all these different quests and adventures, all three of them now, is that they are at once mind-numbing, but also completely overwhelming. So if we talk about the classical adventure in the literary sense, Lord of the Rings. So obviously I love this series. I could not read the books until I had Audible. So I've never read an entire Lord of the Rings book, but I have listened to them several times through. The first time I tried reading Fellowship of the Rings, I was in, I want to say, 9th grade, and I got probably 90% of the way through the book and then just wall-bangered it at the very end, because the last few chapters of that book, dude, is the Fellowship is in their canoes on the river, paddling through the gray waters of the river, and it's 20 pages of and the Fellowship was in their canoes in the gray waters, and they paddled through the waters that were gray. In the canoes, the men were paddling the canoes that they were in. The canoes were gray, and so was the water that the men were paddling through in their gray canoes. Canoes that are gray are being paddled by men. It's holy shit. I am fucking losing my mind, dude. I would rather physically canoe for 12 hours and read another goddamn sentence describing these guys on a canoe trip. So there's maybe some pacing issues sometimes in Tolkien's writing, but I digress. So that's what I mean by it's mind-numbing. But then they get to the edge of the river and they find the High Seat and they find Aemon Hen, and they have this whole thing with the orcs, and Boromir has his very temporary heel turn, which he, comes back from, but that's at the end of the first movie, but at the beginning of the second book, whatever. That's a whole thing. Parenthood is very similar. Again, especially when they're younger, there's so much time. I try so hard to spend as much time with Olivia as I can, especially when she was really, really young, and to play with her, Dad, play with me, Mom, play with me. Okay, what do you want to do? And it's just the most mind-numbing games. So many times you're playing with your toddler. This is a kid who's under 4 years old, and it's I can feel myself getting stupider playing the game with you because of how you're dictating to me how the game has to be played, and it's it's turning my brain to jelly. I'm able to think less good the longer I'm in this world with you. But that's because you can't think good because you're 4. You know what I mean? When you try to meet them on their level, when you meet them where they're at, you're meeting them with a 4-year-old's level of brain development, which is going to feel bad for an adult brain to want to try and do. So it's very hard. But at the same time, there are these moments of inspiration, and they come more and more now, again, when she's older and in school, but even then, where the kid will surprise you. And it's wow, I didn't know you had that in you. Or I've never seen you do this, or I've never heard you say that in this way or articulate something, And it's this like every parent has had these like mind exploding moments. Just like, holy shit, what a cool little creature you are. Like, I can't believe I get to be a part of your development. I am so lucky to be someone who gets to observe this happening to this person in this moment. And it's, for me anyways, at times completely overwhelming. And take a peek at fitness. A lot of the reasons, I'm going to complain about work for a second. So in our gyms, it feels like in the fitness industry, as a coach, as a trainer, I should say more as a coach, as a trainer, we are supposed to kind of chase novelty. I think this is what I am being told. This is what I am observing. We are told as trainers to chase novelty for our clients' programming so that clients, you guys, will stay interested. I think that's bullshit, frankly. I don't think it is valuable or good to chase novelty. I think it's a waste of time. I think it needs to be mind numbing because that is what forces adaptation in your body. Doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again is how you get better at it. And as I've said 100 times, fitness is just skill acquisition at 100 different things. And you don't get better at it without doing it a bunch of times. So it becomes mind numbing, but it's also completely overwhelming because there's so much to it. Look at the barbell clean, for example. That's the movement I've been working on. I can do it okay enough, but there are so many minute details, especially in something like an Olympic lift of this level. And this is like, the clean is like easy mode. I've never done a barbell snatch. I probably never will. I don't think it's worth the investment for my time and energy, frankly, for what I would be able to get out of what I want to get out of it. Anyways, but this is what I'm talking about. I've been in the business for 12 plus years now, and I can't talk about a single lift without having to go down several rabbit holes to talk about that lift in a context and depth of explanation that I find satisfactory, because there's just so much information. It is overwhelming, which is why it's good to have someone on your gut, which is why it's good to have a smart coach, client-led coach. I wonder where you could find one of those. And it is at once the adventure, a quest, your quest is at once completely draining, but surprisingly fulfilling as well. For the fellowship, we've talked about the Fellowship of the Ring. If we go towards the end of the series in End of Return of the King, everything's fulfilled. These characters are finally reunited at the end. My friends, you bow to no one. Everyone cries, cue tears. Hugh Howard Shore's sweeping score on that one, guys. Credits roll in another 90 minutes because that movie has 7 endings. But when we look backwards from where they're at in that part of the story, all these characters have gone on different adventures, different quests. They're on the same quest, right? It's the challenging journey with an objective, right? It is to defeat the Dark Lord Sauron. The quest is not to destroy the ring. The quest is to defeat the Dark Lord Sauron. Destroying the ring is it is the key component in that, but I feel like that sort of gets lost sometimes. So we're looking at the cause, not the effect that we're trying to get, all right? So the point of their quest is to defeat Sauron. The way they do that is to destroy the ring and all the other things that Merry and Pippin and Gandalf and Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are all doing separately but together, right? And at the end, they do those things. Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas, they've saved Merry and Pippin. Merry and Pippin, they have graduated from being like the lovable idiots to being like lordlings and warriors and lore keepers. And Frodo and Sam, God knows they've been through hell and back, and there's been so many long form essays about that. I don't need to describe that, but they've been through it and they've come back, and they all get their happy endings at the end. The hobbits, most of them, go back to the Shire, and they're essentially ranging anywhere from minor celebrity to elected official. and they, Sam marries Rosie, but Frodo and Bilbo sail west. They get their happy ending, which is just to fucking leave the world. They say, I'm done. Peace out, mortals. Goodbye. Gandalf fucks off and does Gandalf wizard shit for a while. The elves go back to Elfland. Legolas and Gimli, I think at the end in the almost epilogue of Return of the King, basically go like on a buddy road trip for like 20 years and just like show each other cool sights. It's awesome, you guys. It's such a good book. But we just watch the movies, guys. Just watch the movies. Parenthood, what is the objective of parenthood? What is the quest? What are the mission parameters of raising a child? That's a good question, right? Something I think a lot of us should ask ourselves if we got kids. I think it's to facilitate the development of an effective adult. I think of it as you are cultivating a citizen of the world. And that has to happen with you first as a parent. And that is such an overwhelming task. Again, if you have a child and you're listening to this podcast, I do not need to describe to you how overwhelming it is. How utterly, what was the word I was using? Draining. Yes, how draining it is to have a child. But also how fulfilling it is. That's the word I think everyone says about having a kid. It's like, oh, it's so rewarding. It's so fulfilling. And it is. But by frequency, not as much as it is draining. By intensity, certainly. If it wasn't, nobody would have kids. And for fitness, it's draining, obviously. It's physically draining. You have to try hard. You have to make yourself tired. It is mentally draining. What's the next thing I have to do? I'm taking track of these reps. Like I'm thinking about my calories, or I'm not in the gym. It's emotionally draining. Why am I not seeing the results that I want? Why do I want these results in the first place? Why is it important to me that my jeans fit in a certain way, or that I, do X, Y, Z? It's draining to think about and to pursue. But when you hit those goals, when you make that progress, it becomes very fulfilling. And sometimes, if you're really cool, the journey itself becomes fulfilling. The act informs the action. The action informs the act. Being on the quest becomes the reason to do it. That's kind of what I was talking about with the Lord of the Rings Sauron thing. The objective, right, is to defeat the Dark Lord Sauron. The goal is to destroy the One Ring. Like you have to do one in order for you to do the other, and to get to this place, you have to embrace the journey in the first place. The objective is not the goal. So how do we keep questing? Why do we keep questing? Because you have to think of yourself as a literary character. You have to cast yourself as the hero in your story, on this adventure, on this quest, capital A adventure, capital Q quest. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be draining, and it's going to be overwhelming, but not the whole time. There will be reward. There will be moments of fulfillment. There will be times of triumph, but you have to earn those by going through the boring stuff, the hard stuff, the unpleasant stuff in Lord of the Rings, in fitness, in parenthood. If we talk about something like main character syndrome, it's a pretty TikTok thing, whatever. Main character syndrome. Someone thinks of themselves as the main character. I am recommending you think of yourself as the main character in your story alone. You're not in anyone else's story, except as an NPC, but you are the main character of your own story. So realize that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Put that in your quill and write it, adventurer. But I think when we hear the words main character of your own story, we might conflate protagonism with things being handed to you, right? And almost a sense of literary entitlement. Because you are the main character, things have to work out in your way. That is not the case. there are many books in which the main character fails, in which they die. I personally like those stories a lot because I think they're much more realistic. And so what I'm saying is that as the main character of your own story, there has to be times of hardship and has to be times of conflict. And there's not really much you can do about it other than realize that you're going through it and that it will eventually go away. It'll be done. Either because whatever's happening just ends on its own, or your circumstances change, or you affect your own environment and circumstances to the point where you surmount it, right? You crest that hill. There are some times during the day or during the week, just in my life, that I think of as montage time. Montage as in you'd see it in a movie, in like an 80s movie especially, right? Where it's just inspiring music set over a series of clips, of short clips of usually repetitive things that the hero has to do in order to get better at something while passing the time. And what's cool about the montage as a cinematic tool is that it gives us, the audience, the passage of time without having to go through it in real time. However, the problem is that we don't have that option in real life. We can't hit fast forward. We can't put Howard Shore's sweeping score over a drone shot of us running 12 miles, whatever it is that Aragorn does, like 90 miles in 3 days or something like that. We have to do it all. We have to do it all in real time. And the only thing that can affect your perception of time really is your mental state about it. So if you are dwelling on how long something is taking, it's gonna take for fucking ever. But if you can like set your body on autopilot to do the things that it needs to do, whether that's running for 90 miles in 3 days or making the same meals over and over again, or changing yet another diaper, or doing another set of push-ups, or walking your kid down to the school bus stop when they're fucking screaming at you again. You to be able to like remove capital Y yourself from the action as you do it, and to sort of just be able to say, I'm checking this box, I'm doing this thing. Is that how you should go through most of life? No, absolutely not. Montage time is something that you will look back on when you're 89 years old, and that'll be the stuff that you miss. Those little things, right? Changing the diapers, walking the kid to the school bus stop, telling her to put on your goddamn socks so you can get out the fucking door on time. Or your first couple times on the treadmill, or lifting your beginner weight for the bench press, doing cleans for the first time and not feeling so terribly proficient at it. In 50 years you'll look back on this with a sort of nostalgic fondness, I would hope. I remember that time. I remember those days back when I was first, think about when you first learned how to drive, right? How scary, how overwhelming, how terrifying and exciting it was. But now you do it every day. You commute to work and your brain floats out. Maybe you listen to this podcast. Good job. Or you just listen to the radio, or if you're a fucking crazy person like me, sometimes you just turn the radio off and you just sort of like listen to road sounds. Is that a weird thing to do? I just want to be in the moment sometimes. I don't want to be constantly buffeted by content at all hours. Unless the content is this show or my content, in which case, by all means, buffet yourself. Buffet away, my friends. All of which is to say, of course, that the journey has to be the point of what we're doing. We should set objectives, right? We should have goals. So we've talked about SMART goals before. I don't think it's wise to undertake any process without having an objective in mind. In Lord of the Rings, it's destroying the ring so that you can kill Sauron. In Parenthood, it is being a good dad so that you can cultivate a good citizen of the world. In fitness, It is getting to your workouts so that you can become more physically proficient. Maybe the real treasure is the friends we made along the way. This has been the RF Fitness Podcast. Yes, I'm available for online coaching. I'm actually opening up. Don't shut it off just yet. I'm available for online coaching. Yes, my schedule is changing a bit here as I'm moving into a couple of different positions here, different things. I'm transitioning here and there. I want to set aside time in my week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and coming up hopefully soon Friday mornings for clients. So that's going to be for in-person hybrid coaching, Zoom sessions. I'm going to start doing those, or for remote coaching client calls. I am on a quest to increase my client load over the course of the summer here. You can head to rffitness.net. That's rffitness.net. Just scroll up to the bottom of that page and see the kinds of coaching that I offer. That website will be updated soon, by the end of June. You should do the client application there and hit join the party to jump into our community Discord server for free. I'm making a solemn vow. I will be running a West Marches style Dungeons and Dragons campaign at some point this year, probably kicking it up again later this summer. I really, really want to do this specifically for friends of the show and listeners, and I want to do something both paper, pencil, and online. Our theme music, wherever I decide to put it, is Funk AF by Everett Almond, distributed by YouTube Studios. Thank you for listening, and as always, guys, keep questing.